Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.
Hi, this is Zoe Hinton. I'm, as usual, here from Star Wars Geek Girl, and I have a couple of very special guests today. We're doing a sort of roundtable of people who were on our Star Wars story series with Jordan Hembrough. So we have a couple of the guests that have been, across that series. So I'll let them introduce themselves, whoever wants to go first.
Barry, you start with B. You should go first.
Okay. I'm Barry, better known as TK523. I love Star Wars since I first saw it when I was 12 years old and saw it in the theaters, and yeah. And then Dale, because you're D for Dale.
I guess this is true. I'm Dale Hopkins. I have been a Star Wars geek since 9 years old actually, when the movie came out in 1977. And I actually know Barry and our other guest, Josh. So let's go to Josh.
That's right. I'm Josh. I do know these guys, and for about 20 years, we figure now, we met on message boards, and we've actually shown up and introduced ourselves to each other at conventions, but I have a special connection to Barry. He saved my life in 2009 with his living kidney donation, and we knew each other from the Star Wars boards, living in separate states. So it's a pretty incredible story, and we'd gotten together for Jordan Hembrough's Star Wars stories and reintroduced that story to the rest of the Star Wars community.
And your episode of the series was amazing. That I watched it. And I was like cried. I cried for yours too. I cried for all of them actually.
I do.
But...
I do. I cried during yours too, and then, but especially when you came out and hugged your dad and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, oh, yeah.
So before we continue too much into the podcast, I just want listeners to know you can go to the Star Wars YouTube channel and watch all the series, but definitely watch Dale's and Barry's and Josh's, and mine, of course. And so you all may, and if listeners of the podcast may remember Dale, we had him on the show a couple months ago. Me and Lizzy did.
Yep.
So if he sounds familiar, that's probably why.
Yeah, that was fun. Gosh, the weather was getting warmer. You were just getting out of school.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, it really was.
That was a weird time because I was like, it was my episode recorded like over my spring break, right at the end of my spring break. So then I went back to school for like a couple days, and they sent us home because of the pandemic started like less than a week after. Pretty much less than a week after we recorded that episode, which was crazy.
The episode Barry and I did was set up as one of the first, I think, that they did in the COVID era, with us getting set up with the cameras and gear. We had to put the lighting up and everything on our own, and we created this for the show just through phone conversations and people going on live on each other's laptops to check everything that was set right.
Yeah, and I remember because I actually went up to Jordan's store. We've been up there a couple times. We went up, and I think it was right before he filmed it with you guys, and he was telling me like, yeah, they're like sending these kits to sending kits to people to like set up themselves. And I thought like, wow, that's crazy, because I don't know about you, Dale, but I felt like they had a fairly big crew to film ours, and they were all working really hard to set up all these lights and cameras. So I was like, wow, So I really commend you guys for setting that up. all
I
by
would have been
yourselves.
scared. I would have
Yeah.
been so scared if I had to set up this stuff. I'd be just like, oh god.
And
Yeah,
it was cool though, because I'm a film student, and like just before we had been talking in my classes about how like film was like adapting to all this, and they're saying like, yeah, for like documentaries and stuff, they're sending these kits out, and I was like, wow, that sounds crazy. And then Jordan, was telling me about it, and I was like, I learned that in school.
Well, Josh and I were originally slated to meet, I think, in January or February, and then it got pushed back to March. I was supposed to fly to LA, and Josh was supposed to drive, and Jordan was going to put me up at a hotel out there, and I don't know where we were going to film it at, but then the pandemic hit, and then we at that time we thought, oh, it's only going to be about a month, and then everything, everyone's going to shut down for a month, and then the virus will go away, and then it just kind of went a couple months, and I was like, well, there goes that, I didn't think we were ever going to record it again. And then Jordan contacted me and said, yeah, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it at a safe, COVID safe distance. And then the next thing you know, I'm getting this big old suitcase with cameras and laptops, and I'm going, I hope they have someone that knows how to set this up, because I don't. But who was the gentleman that helped us, Josh?
Alan Griswold.
Alan Griswold, yeah. That
Props
dude.
to him. I met him. He came out here and showed me how to set some of the stuff up a little bit over in our club room where I work. And I was doing my edits on my novel, and he came in and brought the equipment down all the way from Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was kind of fascinated, like, oh, well, I mean, like Zoe, you
Yeah.
were fascinated on a completely different level, but I just was watching them just assemble all of these things and place these things and doing the sound checks and doing the light checks and making sure that the camera was going to track correctly and hey, we need to dress the room this way. And that's the thing you guys missed out, I think,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
them going through and tearing your house apart and resetting it.
Oh yeah, like we have like a really big, like one of those like L-shaped kind of couches, and they got to PA a little early, and they're like, hey, can we like stop by ahead of time, but before we're supposed to film the next day? And we're like, yeah, sure. And so they came over and they're like, can you just like take all the furniture out of your living room? We were like, I guess. And we did it, but we had to like take everything out, and they just kind of took over, like our kitchen was taken over. It was like for the sound now, and it was kind of scary for me because they wanted me to help, and then they gave me like the production assistant credit. So but like I remember one of them I just got handed this like crazy expensive fancy camera, and that I'd never touched before. And they're like, all right, you're gonna put that together, and I was like, I'm gonna what? And they showed me how to do it, but it's scary to hold like thousands of dollars worth of equipment and be trying to screw it together when you've never done it before.
My
You learned
situation
something.
was I wanted to film against my diorama of the Battle of Endor, and that's what you see in our Star Wars stories. So I had everything set up on tables and pushed back everything else to my couches and everything. That's why it looks like I'm having a issue sitting down, because I was actually on the floor when I was trying to get up against that where it sits. So I looked like I was being interviewed live from Endor.
Nice. Yeah, that did look really cool. So you did a good job setting it up. For
Thank
sure.
you.
Both of you did a very good job setting it up. It looked, your backgrounds look very nice.
Mhm.
Well, the funny thing was when they told me about it, they said, oh, you're gonna have a camera behind you too. You're gonna hook up this iPhone thing behind you, and then you're gonna so they can get different shots from different angles. So I had to clear off all the stuff on it real nice. And then they go, oh yeah, you're not going to do a back shot because you're going to come in the middle of this thing, and so we're not going to do any behind the shots, over your shoulder shots. I'm like, oh well.
I had those shots set up too, but they didn't seem to use them. I don't know why. Because we had a little bit of a time where I'd moved the stuff that I'd put on top of that display case onto the couch, and then it was kept getting in the shot on the side shot. So I kept moving it further and then asking Alan, do you see it now?
Crazy. So I have a couple questions. We kind of already went into a lot of stuff, but I think the first one I had was to backtrack a little bit. And I just want to know how everyone, how Jordan got in contact with all of you, and like how you got to be on the show, I guess.
I think
Deal?
I think Jordan called me. I think, or did he email me first? I don't remember. That was so many months ago.
Well, for me, I happened to see Jordan had posted something on one of the Star Wars groups on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, we're getting ready to cast for our Star Wars Stories season 2. If you think you've got a good story to tell, just send me an email or send me a DM." And so I sent him a DM, and he sent me his email address, and I sent him off a little thing. And it was actually about this time last year that we started contact with each other, and he called me, oh gosh, just maybe like the week before Christmas, and he's like, "We're really interested in your story." So I'm like going, oh my gosh. And so I had his phone number, come up, and as I'm driving home one day, it was just before the new year, I'm coming home from work, and it comes up on my readout on my car, and it's Jordan Hembrough. And I'm just like, and he's like, "Yeah, we're definitely going with you. We'll just hold on tight, and we'll let you know when we're going to be in Cleveland." And I'm like, okay.
I work in big cat rescue, and I think literally every time he tried to get in contact with me, I was with the tiger. And fortunately, I was with Nola, I think, one of the first times he talked to me. She's a white Siberian tiger, a little bit undersized, and she is a really good girl. So I didn't have a big problem with that. But yeah, normally that's not really when I want to be on the phone. Got to keep an eye on those guys.
I think Josh actually called me and said something about they were looking for stories for this thing called the Star Wars show. And I was thinking it was like the Star Wars show, the thing that's called the Star Wars show. It's not our Star Wars stories. It's called the Star Wars show.
Sure.
So I'm thinking we're going to be on that thing. I'm like, well, it's going to be like 2 minutes, they're just going to come in and do like a quick, like a news thing, And then then finally I found out it's called Our Star Wars Stories. And then I went back and I started checking out the older episodes, and I think it was before Dale's episode came out. And then, yeah.
Yeah, for me it was after the first, because I'm obviously friends with Lizzy, who was in the first season, one of the first episodes of that season, I think. And so I was she kind of like shouted me out on that, and then my dad was able to get in contact with Jordan Hembrough, and you guys know because you're on the podcast, he kind of just badgers people about doing stuff.
Yeah.
In a good way. But so I think he badgered Jordan Hembrough a little bit, and then I actually ran into Jordan at Celebration, because with the podcast I was able to get a pass where I could come into Celebration like before the floor opened and just kind of walk around. And Jordan was filming something, and he had, a camera person and Matt Martin with him. And he pulled me aside. He's like, "Here, do you want to do a quick like little mini Our Star Wars Stories for the feed?" And I was like, "Sure." So we did like just a small interview in Celebration Chicago. And I thought all right, well, I guess I technically did Our Star Wars Stories, and I didn't think, I'd hear from him again. But then later he's like, "All right, we got a green light on season 2, and we want to do one on you." So he messaged us, and we arranged it, and I think we were originally supposed to shoot in like January or February, but it did get pushed back to right before the pandemic, fortunately. So
Celebration Chicago was a great time. I went there with Barry, and I ran into Dale there several different times. We were standing around by the line, I think, for the Star Wars store, or I was going to the panel on Rebels or on Resistance. I'm not sure, but and then we ran into you guys upstairs again too.
Yeah.
It was a good time. I knew so many people there. Those celebrations are one of the highlights of Star Wars. I wanted to give a shout out because I'm a diorama builder, and Barry and I worked on Frank DiOrio's dioramas, which are a staple of that. And he was building Scarif. Rogue One is probably close to my favorite Star Wars movie, give or take. I love Return of the Jedi, as people know. And I had a lot of fun. And Barry and I sat down and we worked on that diorama, putting shore troopers on the beach every single day of celebration.
Nice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but we started out though, because it was my first time working on this diorama, and so we started out filling paint bottles. We had to squeeze these up and fill these little paint bottles so everyone had their own little paint stuff. It was a mess. It was messy. So fortunately, they gave us like something to cover our shirts with and stuff. But yeah. But then we got the paint stuff and build a little landscape.
Yeah, I'm going to use that technique that we worked with on Scarif. I'm worried about how I'm going to make those palm trees. I'm trying to go up to the 6-inch scale and do Chirrut bays fighting stormtroopers on the beach there. And I've got to figure out how to upscale those palm trees and do the water and everything in there. So what do you got there? You got your X-Wing?
Yeah.
Toys
Nice.
everywhere.
Absolutely. I'm
What do I
outside,
have?
actually. That profile picture I'm taking, I'm just drinking and kicking back, but it's daylight out in California still, and I'm pretty much like you see in my profile picture, but just looking around at all there is to see. Because
So
I'm
you got a porg.
couple hours earlier. Huh?
I wanted my toy too.
I love it. Well, you're all porg today because you're
I
dressed
have
up with
my
your
porg
porg shirt.
pajamas. Yeah. Yeah. Baby Yoda and Babu Frick are in the other room, so the porg was my closest.
Yeah, Baby
Toy.
Yoda and Babu Frick are on my bed right now,
Yeah.
keeping watch over me, making sure I don't fall apart.
Stormtrooper. Yeah, well, for my birthday in September, my sister made me the little carrier, the little floating carrier thing for Baby Yoda to put my Baby Yoda in. So now he just lives in that.
Adorable. That's lightning in a bottle right there. I mean, I don't know what they did to make that thing so darn cute.
I think they won Star Wars. I think that's what they did.
I think they did.
All right, I think we should move on to the next. So the next is just kind of how did you prepare yourself for the shoot? So obviously Barry and John, you had to set everything up yourselves as part of your preparation. But what else besides that? Did you look at old stuff to bring back the memories, I guess, or?
Well, one of the things Jordan said was, make sure you don't have anything Star Wars in your shot. That's not Star Wars, anything that wasn't Star Wars in your shot. So
and not licensed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to go through and pull stuff, and then I got this thing saying no autographs. So I was going to put a few of the autographs I've gotten, but no autographs. So
I really wanted to have my novels in the background because one of the things about my writing is I was influenced by Star Wars for pacing and the style of an action adventure story, and with different mini climaxes for combat action or something profound happening, like the Luke "I am your father" moment. And I really like to incorporate that style into how I know to create action, adventure, and drama. So that affected me profoundly, and it even tied into my kidney issues because I was very angry about what I was going through. I'm not sure how you feel, Dale, but your spirits are incredibly amazing. I was very dark side, if you would. So I started writing the stories from the perspective of good people turning bad. And it was much in empathy with my anger issue about what I was going through, and at such a young age. So I felt it was important to me, and I actually own all the trademark, copyright, everything to varied values to my own works. And Jordan said, no, we can't have that in there. They were supposed to get clearance on things. But obviously I had all the authority in the world to sign on that. But I really was in the middle of the fires in California, if you remember our bad wildfires. And we were evacuating 6 lions, 6 tigers, 9 bears, 2 leopards, and we got, 3 servals, 5 bobcats. It was crazy. And I actually had singed hair, and I cut my mountain man beard. I was getting all formal, looking to be remembered for our Star Wars stories, not looking like I just walked out of that fire. But we managed to keep all the animals and our property safe for our sanctuary out there, and they all made it through. But yeah, that was right in the middle of my filming our Star Wars stories, and I even wanted to have a picture up or something with myself and probably Mocha, one of our poster tigers, that stressed that we did need people's funds to help us feed the animals and survive. With that, I was also been involved ever since Barry's gift to me with doing counseling. I have a master's in social work and had provided my services for all the patients that have renal failure at Scripps Green, and felt like I needed to give back because I had the second chance. So I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I'm trying a new program where I'm having people do a buddy system and get people living donors for kidneys. And I got a new spot for a man, Steve Smiley, that I'm trying to help right now. But they couldn't have any of that with lions, tigers, and bears, or Scripps hospitals or anything on the program. And it was very focused on Star Wars, which is only a great percentage of all of our lives, but not all of our lives. So I was very interested in showing more of what I did and being able to help humans or animals and make that part of the show, because that's part of who I am.
I didn't go through that much trouble. I had no fires. No, they I just I tried to bring out some things that I thought would interest them in terms of, like, just sort of setting pieces up, some of my sideshow 12-inch figures, ones that I really felt a connection to. And I actually did go back and I watched the first season of episodes just so I could kind of get a feel for how everything was being edited together and what the run felt like, and if everything sort of had the same feel, or if there was an individual energy, which there obviously is depending on the person, between the stories, and I think that helped me prepare for it, just so I knew what they were expecting. So it was good to be in season 2.
Yeah, that I was like fortunate enough that I was able to like text Lizzy, because she was one of the first episodes, and they're like, so like, how'd they set up your house? And I was like asking her questions about it. And we they asked us to like send them like, pictures and stuff they could use in the episode. So me and my dad ended up going through like a ton of old pictures, which I think helped like make the memories that I want to talk about fresh in my mind a lot. And I was, like I said, we had to take all the furniture out of our living room and throw Star Wars stuff in there. And the licensing was an issue for us too, because we had some old pillows that had like some characters from the first Clone Wars series, the 2D animated one. It had those on. We had one that says like Star Wars and has like the 2D Yoda on it, and we were gonna put it on one of the chairs in the background, and they were like, "Oh, is that licensed?" And we were like, "Oh, I don't know." So I think we ended up not using them. But that
Just
was
for
like,
safety's sake.
yeah, that was the hard thing. I think we shot like a little bit in my room, and I had like these display cases, and it was all Star Wars except I had 2 plush dogs in there because I just needed a place to put them. And they're like, you can't have those in there either, so I had to take them out.
Bye.
Yeah. Just kind of like threw them in the closet and was like, all right, I'll take care of that later.
Well, you know, it's funny that you brought up your photographs because I wasn't expecting that. And Jordan had contacted me afterwards. You know, it's like, can you send some photos over of your mom and dad? And, you know, you growing up playing with your stuff, like, going, oh my God, that was, you know, the late 70s, 80s. Nobody just like took pictures of, you know, their kids playing with their Star Wars toys. So that was really hard. But fortunately, you know, we were moving my mother from her condo to a new apartment. And so I did have all of these boxes of photo albums and packets of photos that I was just like tearing through, you know, and we're just like, is this a bad time? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Everything's great. We're gonna make the show.
The photographs, you know, I got asked like for a couple times for different photographs, and I was trying to, when he looked for the one for my mom and you know, my mom, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to find one. I have one with her with me in my Tusken Raider costume, and I looked through every album. I can't find it for the life of me, and but I found a couple good pictures, and then like you were saying, Dale, we were growing up. You only had the little rolls. You didn't have an unlimited amount of digital pictures, so. I think I found one picture of me wearing by the old Bantha. It was the official Star Wars fan club.
Yeah.
Bantha Tracks shirt with a picture of the Bantha, and this is back when the fan club stuff was a little magazine, a little paper thing you would get, and you'd get a little membership kit with pictures in it and patches and decals and stuff. And so I found that they didn't use that one. I don't know, maybe that wasn't. But I had a lovely set of curly brown hair.
I want to see that photo sometime. You got to scan that and shoot it over.
Yeah, I think I've got it on my computer somewhere.
I guess I had a little easier time with the photos because mine were all already digital. Cause I was born in 2001, so everything was already digital. So we had a slightly easier time. It didn't even occur to me that you guys would have some people have to like scan like albums and stuff. That didn't.
Well, it was weird when I actually was able to find a couple things of me playing with things like I made a walker, and I made a Wampa mask, and out of like foam cones and like fun fur and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, well you're gonna have to do with these because I don't actually have the action figures. They're inside that walker that I made.
One of the fun, your foam costume reminds me of when I would try to make one of the Twi'leks, like a big Fortana. I wanted to make a big Fortana. So I went out and got a pair of pantyhose and figured I would just pour latex rubber into them and make and I could never figure it out.
Didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. It was, I didn't know anything about costume making. My first costume I ever put together was I was in high school and I put this Luke Skywalker. I had my old white robe, and I had a light brown pair of pants and some mace bandages, and I made the lightsaber out of a cardboard paper towel tube, and
that's what we did.
Yeah, and then then years later, I was at this had to have been about 2000. I was at a Wizard World convention, and I went there to get autographs from Dave Prowse, Kenny Baker, and Peter Mayhew. They were all in attendance at this Wizard World. And I didn't get Kenny Baker's because I ended up spending, went there with $90, and I ended up spending $50 for the Vader picture to get him to sign it, and then $30 for Peter Mayhew. But I'm glad I got those two gentlemen's autographs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm looking down this aisle and I see these guys, these 3 stormtroopers, and I'm about 35 years old at this time, and I nearly wet my pants because they were like professional looking stormtroopers, and my knees went to jello, and I was like, there's real stormtroopers here at this convention. Yeah. And then I was too afraid to go talk to them. I was afraid they were going to tell me that they were working for some Lucasfilm thing, and that these costumes were licensed, and they had to give them back at the end. And I ended up going home and doing a search for stormtrooper armor, and ended up getting my first armor kit. So
I don't have any Star Wars costumes. I think I'm the only one here that doesn't.
Yeah.
You're going to need to get on that.
yeah,
I have so many costumes. I do dress for my Civil War and Wild West reenactments. Actually, I'm in an outdoor theater group with firearms, and we do Wild West shows in Temecula. And we've also recorded videos, so we have Old Town Temecula Gunfighters on YouTube, and you can see me in some shootouts and some comedies too. And then we got hired to do an episode of Castle that was a Wild West show. And I did some stuff for the History Channel and HBO in Civil War and Western gear. Plus I have an old school replica, an actual wool uniform from the 1918 Chicago Cubs I wore with Barry when I went to several Cubs games. And then I was able to sort of promote what I was doing, because one of my novels is set in that time, actually against the Spanish flu pandemic, with no idea that that was published in 2019, with no idea that the turnaround would be this year and we'd be stuck in another flu crisis. But I have a vintage mafioso suit with the inside shoulder holster for the gun, the concealed weapons, and it's actually a real Italian suit. It's not any costume from Party City, but I can't wear those out to like conventions or places where they might be damaged really. So I'm kind of relegated to cosplaying in Barnes and Noble. I'm just the showstopper after I say
No,
something.
no.
I'm waiting for Zoe to be like, okay, next.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, but I did want to say I know quite a few people who do both, like Star Wars, like 501st stuff, and Civil War. Like I think there might be some kind of overlap there. So you should just reach out as much as you can and see if you can find 501st people among your Civil War reenactment friends. Yeah.
There are. I've met a guy, and there was a meme, I think that's the way you say it, sent around on Facebook of a guy in stormtrooper armor with a bunch of Union infantrymen, and it says something to the effect that when you show up for the wrong Civil War.
It's funny. So the next question I had on here was what we already touched on this, I think, a little bit, but it's what like the filming like day was for everybody.
I was getting tired just watching them set everything up. I mean, I was literally just exhausted watching how much work went into filming, what ends up being a relatively short piece. And I mean, I had so much admiration for their craft, and just watching how meticulous everybody was, and how, people would pull away when somebody needed to work on something, and and then it actually was great because it gave us a lot of time to interact. Dan Brooks, he and I had a nice little chat about my disease, and talked about that for a while. So I mean, everybody was friendly, and I just felt weird because I thought they were going like, it's like this guy, he's amateur hour.
I was nervous.
Ours was a little bit different because we didn't have all the guys in there, and basically we set up the night before all our equipment and stuff, and I just had to remember what needed to be turned on and when, and then of course they started interviewing Josh first, and it's kind of just as you see it on there. Josh is being interviewed, and I'm just kind of sitting here waiting for a text from Alan to tell him that, you know, I was coming up then, and then you know, so I didn't see any of the stuff that Josh did before, and it was just kind of just waiting, sitting down here, and then Alan texted me, oh, they're almost ready for you, and then but I was my stomach was kind of like nervous, and I basically took the whole day off, but our segment didn't film that evening. So I was, you know, I was basically trying to make sure I didn't have anything that wasn't gonna, you know, because I have little Cubs keychains. I'm like thinking, well, if they find something that they don't like, maybe they might not film our, you know, put our episode out because, you know, they don't have a license to have that stuff in there.
They used a picture of us at Wrigley Field, and you're wearing your modern Cubs jersey. So I guess that went by. That's actually in our video.
Yeah.
I remember what I was nervous about was that car alarm. So Barry and I are filming, and you know, we have our mic on our shirts, and where my display is, it's up by one of the windows, and there's a driveway around through this complex, and a car parked there had its alarm just going off, and there's nothing I can do about it. I don't own the car. I can't move, and can't move that indoor display for sure. And so I muted my microphone, just letting them go on and keep on schedule, because they were talking to Barry in this part, and I thought, you know, that's okay. I don't need to say anything. And then when it got back to me, and we were like almost done, I was like, did anybody remind me to turn that microphone on?
Oh yeah, I was like, oh no. I was thinking, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Josh forgot to turn on the microphone, and now we're going to have to do this whole thing over again.
No,
And
I thought
was
they'd
just
done
like,
me in
oh.
like Bruce Lee.
Man, yeah, we were fortunate enough here to not have any sound issues because I mean I live in a neighborhood, but it was during the week, so everyone's at like school or work because my spring break was like in the beginning of March, so like the school around here didn't have like a break at that same time, so like no one else was like home, so we didn't have those issues, which was nice. There are roosters across, you know, over the fence, but they weren't crowing, thankfully. Sometimes they'll just crow all day, but they weren't that day, which was good. Yeah, it was crazy. It was funny sometimes because I'm sure you can tell in the episode I cry very easily, especially when I'm talking about like Star Wars and stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's multiple takes where I just start crying and then they're like, okay, can we like film that again? Try not to cry. I was like, I'm sorry, I'll try. Well, it's funny though because there's a couple times where they just use my voice but not my video and just put pictures, you know, with my voice over it. And it's funny because like one of the comments like someone made was like, her voice sounds like she's crying, and it's like, well, I was, you just couldn't see it. Which is funny. And another thing, and this is something you guys, Dale and Barry, will understand, is they filmed the one sequence, I guess, of me putting my Sabine armor on. And I don't know what you guys use. I use snaps to attach my armor to my shirts. I don't know if you guys use Velcro or not. But we were filming that, and they're like, they're trying to get good shots of it. And they're like, can you just, like, slap that piece on? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
It takes a little more work than just slapping that piece on.
Yeah, we ended up faking it a little bit. We just, like, took some tape and kind of slapped it on. Or, like, I think we, like, snapped one of the snaps, and I just pretended to slap it on. And, like, but because like, you know, I don't think any of them really had costumes, so like, you just like slap it on. I was like, no, it doesn't.
I was doing an interview for I think it was for the ZP magazine, because I had lost all this weight. Like I said, I was down at one of my fundraisers, one of the relays I do, and this guy said the camera guy was supposed to be there at like 4 in the afternoon. So I get in my armor, and then he doesn't get there till later. And then he wants to do all these shots of us walking around the track, and then shots. He took me out, and he had me all lit up, and I was standing there in my armor, like all like, you know, official stormtrooper without the helmet on, with the helmet on, with some of my team. And I had this lady come by and she's like, "Oh, I wish I had my own photographer for my relay team." Like, hey, So anyway,
Get a
then
costume.
he had to do this interview with me, and by the time I'd been in my costume for like over 8 hours. So I'm sure your dad is being a fellow stormtrooper, it gets kind of
Yeah.
tiresome. So by the time they got to the interview portion, I was beaten and I couldn't sit down in my armor, and so I'm standing up and I'm like feel like I'm gonna fall over because I'm wobbling and but yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Stormtrooper will take it out of you. I know my dad will. Well, I know a lot of times we've been at troops and like everyone goes into the change room at the end and people just take their helmets off and everyone's just like drenched in
Yeah.
wet. Even like I did the when I was a kid, I was like 7, but I did the Mummers Parade in Philadelphia, and it was like record like freezing and it was super windy. And the stormtroopers, though, because they're marching and in the costumes, they were sweating. But since it was so cold, they had little sweat like icicles, like tiny little ones
Oh my
hanging from like
gosh.
their butt plates and like their helmets. So this was back in like 2000, I think it was 2008. And we did then we used to do like, do you remember you would get like a patch? They make specific patches for like bigger events like parades and stuff. So the patch for that parade, because me and my sister were 2 Jawas, it was 2 Jawas with like an ice pick and like a hammer trying to like thaw out like a frozen stormtrooper.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, as long as the icicles were clear and not yellow.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jawas were warm though, because we were, cause especially, my mom, because we were little, so she just bundled us up in like tons of layers, and we had little like hand warmers, and then the Jawa robes and the masks, so it was pretty warm.
I've done fundraisers and outside my Walmart, dressed in my stormtrooper armor, and I'm out there for like 6 to 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours, depending on how the day is going. And I remember there was a day, it was like only 45, 50, and I was shaking, and I had chills the next 3 days. I was just like shivering the whole 3 days because of the being out there, and I didn't bring anything. I just had my thin body stocking on underneath the armor, and it doesn't provide. I thought it'd be a little bit warmer, but it was very cold.
You know what? You just actually answered a question that I've been wanting to ask for so long. It's just like, how thick is the body stocking? And apparently, it's just not.
It's not. No.
Yeah. That's because I do Sabine now, and with her it was weird. Well, because she has sleeves now, thankfully, but for a while in season 1, she has short sleeves, and then she has like her elbows and she has like rubber gloves. And the later seasons we don't use rubber gloves, but those rubber gloves just take whatever temperature it is and just absorb it. So like if it's cold, your hands are gonna like your fingers will be numb. And if it's hot, you'll be like I would like pull my hand out of my glove on a rubber glove on a hot day and just shake the glove out, and it would like. It was gross. But with Sabine, trooping in the winter with Sabine was really hard, because I had short sleeves. So I was just like cold no matter like what else I did. I was cold. I mean, my dad was always like, no one's going to care if you wear like a black long sleeve shirt under it. I'm like, no.
That's not authentic.
I have to be authentic. She needs short sleeves. I was 14, so I was like, no. I probably wouldn't now.
You should imagine yourself like a Sabine cold weather gear mission outfit.
Yeah, well now she has sleeves, so it's not as big a deal. But I did quite a few cold troops with Sabine, and like I would just be shivering. But like I refuse. It's like, no, I'm not putting on the long sleeves. She wears short sleeves. I wear short sleeves. Very stubborn. So this is a little different, but was there a moment when you were filming, because at least I know for me and Dale, they filmed like hours and hours, it felt like, but it's a pretty short episode. So were there any moments you felt like that were filmed, like anything you said or did that didn't make the final cut that you liked?
For me, it seemed like I think we were filming for like almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And it went by like a blur, and I can't remember anything that I felt that was necessary that got left. So I think all of the right parts were edited back into edited into that episode. So no regrets.
I just there was one part that they had me do over, and I don't know if it's because I mentioned two of the other foreign members on the forum where Josh and Dale and I all met had passed away, prior to Josh's diagnosis. And the one was a lady who passed from cancer, and then
Marilyn.
Marilyn, yeah, R2D2, I think her screen name was. Right? And so she passed from cancer, and then this gentleman named Gene Vulcantouch was selling, with the permission from her husband, was selling her collection to some of us. And I had bought some. I made arrangements because I wanted these Rydell helmets, these mini Rydell helmets, to finish off my collection. And during that time, Jean, I think his name is pronounced Jean. Jean is like French. So he passes away, and I actually ended up making friends with his mom. And so she and I are in touch now because he died in a very sad way. I'm not going to mention it here, but it ties in with my own stepson's passing too. So she and I are very close about that, and yeah. So I mentioned those two names on the as well as my mom's passing as being reasons why I stepped forward to donate the kidney. I mean, yeah. So, but I wish they would have kind of left those two names in there, but I don't know if they couldn't because of whatever.
I guess maybe for focus.
Yeah.
And maybe they'd have to like contact like family members to clear it and just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I had mentioned before that I really wanted to try to help Steve Smiley as well as the program for living organ transplant and the cats that I take care of too, out at Lions, Tigers, and Bears. But it was important to me that I give back after I got my second chance, because my connection to Star Wars and to Barry really saved my life.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was a long day of filming, and I think one thing that was cut, and I don't know if I necessarily wish it had made the final cut because I understand that they had to cut it for time and focus, but what I towards the end of my episode, when Jordan, before I talk about like my dad and stuff at the end, Jordan talks about his dad a little bit in the episode, and you see that when we filmed it, in reality, Jordan talked for a lot longer about it and like kind of went into it more. And so I'm sure part of it was maybe cut for, maybe his privacy as well. But it was really touching, everything he said. And I'm not going to say it because I don't know, if he wants that on the internet, but he, talked a lot about it and how Star Wars, what that meant to him. And I felt like we really connected in that moment. It was very sweet.
I love that part when your dad comes out and gives you a hug.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they took him because the way our house is laid out, there's like the stairwell and then it's like split into, the stairwell kind of splits the house into two sides, like in the front. So we were kind of like on the one side and my dad was on the other side, and it was the way through was like blocked by all like the camera rigs and stuff. So one of the one of the men that were there, they kind of, when they realized what Jordan was building up to, they kind of like grabbed him and like stuck a mic on him and like pulled him around the stairs to like sneak him around and like bring him in.
Oh my gosh. That's really kind of sweet that they knew that it was probably coming. Now, had you cried prior to
Yes.
that moment?
Yeah, I cried multiple times during filming. Yeah, I cried when he asked about sick. Well, it was interesting because Jordan, the day of, gave me, or the day before, he had given me like what the questions were, so I could like think about them, which was very helpful. But it took a turn because a lot of his questions were focused on Sabine, who I obviously cosplay as, and I love Sabine. But my favorite character is Ahsoka. The main reason I don't do her costumes because of all like the makeup and all that. And Sabine is she has more armor, which is what we're better at. Where Ahsoka's more soft parts. So I think, and in one of the early questions he asked me, I ended up talking more about Ahsoka than about Sabine. And Jordan was very quick. He's a very good interviewer, and he was able to turn all the questions around to talk more about Ahsoka than Sabine because I think he kind of realized that was where my heart is a little more at. So very, very good, improvisation on Jordan's part.
Yeah, he's great.
One thing I love about Ahsoka is having personally known Ashley Eckstein, as well as being friends. I was first friends with her husband, David, through the San Diego Padres and my love for baseball. And when I had just had my kidney transplant, I had to make it down to the games. So I was getting all of my 2009 baseball cards signed by the players, and I wasn't supposed to go. It's kind of like social distancing now. I wasn't supposed to go up close to everybody where I could catch anything that might give me an infection. And so at that time I said to David, excuse me, Mr. Eckstein, could I come and over here and get my card signed, because I can't go on top of everybody else in that situation because I just had a kidney transplant. So he's like, no, wait, I got to talk to you, because their family has had 5 transplants and they have a similar health situation as I do. And David and Ashley very much support living organ donation. And David's going to be an organ donor at one point too. His brother has been, who was the Washington Nationals batting coach. So then David tells me what's kind of going on. This is right when Clone Wars is coming out. And so he's like, yeah, I'll introduce you to Ashley. And then I've known them for over 10 years now. And then I've introduced them to Barry at conventions where David sort of hung out with us. It was really cool. They're a wonderful couple.
Yeah, I haven't met David, but I've been fortunate enough to be able to meet Ashley a few times, and she's just incredible.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first met her. I had to wait for a while because she had so many young girls and fans around her at the convention. It was like, wow, she's going around talking to all of them, and then she finally got over to me, and I got to talk to her for a bit on the situation that Josh and I been through. And what's funny is there's a guy named Ryder Wyndham who does various Star Wars books, and one of my stepdaughters bought me one of his books for Father's Day, and it was and I go, Ryder Wyndham, I know that name, and I went on to Facebook and I said, oh yeah, Josh introduced me to this guy, so I contacted him and let him know that I had gotten this book for my stepdaughter, and he ends up mailing this little sticker that he drew and with his autograph on it and a little hand-drawn picture of Darth Vader. I thought that was really, really nice. And then I find out he's a blood donor too, and I'm donating blood is something that's a passion of mine. So, because when I was 8, I had brain surgery, and I don't know if I ever needed blood during that time, but I figured by donating blood, I can pay back if I did get blood, I can always pay back by donating blood. But he's this Ryder's also a blood donor, so we've been in touch over that, and he ended up mailing me a pin, I donated blood, Star Wars related pin, which is really cool. And then I got to meet him at Celebration out in Anaheim. And he talked for a good 15, 20 minutes, maybe even a half hour, and took pictures. So that was really cool. That's what I love about the Star Wars community. It's just, you meet in a meeting people. I mean, 2002 was my first Star Wars convention at Celebration in Indianapolis. And being a member of the 501st, I got to party with Peter Mayhew, I mean, that was like, I'm standing right next to him, and he's like,
Yeah.
and then he had this leather jacket that said Chewbacca rocks, and it had Chewbacca playing the drums. It was like,
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
I was like, I'll always remember that. Yeah.
You know who we should give a shout out to was Daryl DePriest, who was one of the best over in Hasbro Star Wars ever.
Mm.
He gave us a lot of the stuff that we love. When he learned that Barry and I were going through this, he sent through Hasbro these huge boxes full of all of these Star Wars toys from their action figure line.
Oh, that's
that
awesome.
He knew.
Yeah.
And we also got the FX lightsabers and stuff. It was pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that stuff arrived for me and Barry when we were coming home from the hospitals.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
My weird chance encounter was like, I mean, obviously like met other people, but the weirdest one was going into an elevator at Celebration 3 in 2005, and then having the door held open from the inside by David Prowse. And I was like, that's David Prowse in the elevator. And he's just like, what floor, gentlemen? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm just like, if I could tell my child self that you are going to walk into an elevator in Indianapolis someday and Dave Prowse is going to be just magically in there. Yeah.
I think most of the people I've met have been like at cons, like at their booths. But I think the chance encounter was at a con, but it was it's a con it's called Steel City Con. It's in Monroeville, but out by Pittsburgh. It's not too far from you, Dale, I don't think.
No, we're gonna meet out there sometime.
Yeah, we have to once
this...
once they can do it again. But
yes,
I met Anthony Daniels and Peter Mayhew and a couple other people there. But I guess the chance encounter was at the hotel is in the same like parking lot as a convention center, so all the celebrities stay there too. And there's like a bar, and my dad was hanging out with some people down at the bar, and he texted me. He's like, "Come down quick and bring something." And I was like, "I'm working on math homework," because I was in school then. He's like, "Bring it down." So I was like, "Okay." And I come down, and my dad's sitting there with Ray Park, and Ray Park signed my math homework.
Oh my God!
And so I turned that in. I scanned a copy and turned it in because my math teacher wasn't getting the original copy. But my teacher was a big Star Wars fan, so sure that helped my grade.
That's a great story. I wanted to ask actually what Star Wars celebrities everyone had met, and I did want to start with Anthony Daniels for myself because of the Dagobah convention. The Dagobah was Celebration 1. It was really held in a place called Denver, Colorado, but everybody nicknamed it Dagobah because we were out caught in the rain, and Colorado offered what it was, I think they said 325 days of sunshine, and we were on the 10 that it rained. And so we're all out there in the freezing cold. I met some of the guys like from Jedi Temple Archives, Rebel Scum. There were a lot of people out there that were like, personalities or influencers on the message boards and the websites. And we're all out there huddled against the rain. So true story. Security said, well, we're not letting people in until the time that the convention's supposed to start. And Anthony Daniels walks out there. He says, "Excuse me, I'm a celebrity. I'm really important." And they said, "Oh, well, you can go in." And he said, "Yeah, we have a VIP door." And he said, and Anthony asks who they're letting in. And he says, like, just celebrities and their family. And he goes, "Oh, well, fortunately, I just found like 25,000 members of my family." And we all went in.
No, that's yeah. I met Anthony Daniels at Steel City. He was so sweet. And my dad was actually, I only got to meet him a little bit because he had like a crazy line all day. So I got to meet him at the end of the day and we talked a little bit. But my dad, they had 501st people work his line, like facilitate things. So my dad was able to stand there with him for like a while. And my dad was saying like, yeah, he would like he said there was this one, it was this dad and he came with two little boys and they like talked to Anthony Daniels a little bit. And the dad gave him he bought a picture and had him sign it. And then Anthony Daniels just grabbed two other pictures, signed them both, and handed them to the little boys, like free of charge. And
that's sweet.
so
one
yeah.
Of my favorite celebrity moments was when I was at Celebration 2 and I wanted to get Carrie Fisher's autograph. And I was in my armor that morning. We were at the stairway for the RCA Dome to do our 501st group picture. And I'm watching, and they said we could get, being members of the 501st, and some of us were volunteering that weekend. I volunteered to do door duty. So we were supposed to be allowed in early to get like things that we like, autographs and stuff, so that we could get to our assigned duties during the day. And so I'm watching the doors. We're out there getting our photos, the photo op before the convention opens that day. And I'm watching the lines, and all of a sudden I see the doors open and these lines go in. And one was for the store, for the Celebration store, and the other one was for Carrie Fisher's autograph. So I go in there, and I finally get done with the photo shoot. I go down and I get in the line and I say, well, which line is this? They said, oh, this one's for the store. I think that one's for Carrie Fisher. So I go over to stand the other line. And then I find out that line's for the store. So I end up having to get further back in line. So it took me 6 hours. I was standing there in my armor. I get to the table to pick out a picture to have her sign. I originally wanted to get her in her metal bikini, holding the staff,
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got to the table, there's one of where Jeremy Bullock's kind of pulling her along, where she's trying to warn Luke, it's a trap, And so there's Jeremy Bullock as an Imperial officer, and then there's a stormtrooper, with his blaster, shooting towards Luke. So I said, I'm going to get that one because I'm in my armor, and she's, So I get in there and she signs it. She signs it to Barry with an arrow pointing to the stormtrooper from the arrow pointing to her, and I was like, yes. And I didn't know what to say to her. I was like, I wanted to hug her. I was like, thank you for just
being
the strong role, for all the girls out there. And yeah, it was great. And I did meet Ray Park at one time too. I'd gone to this is when the shows used to come out. The midnight showings used to actually be on midnight.
Yeah.
So I've gone to see one of the Star Wars. I don't remember. I think it might have been episode 2, or maybe. But I'd seen it the night before. I got home. I had washed my clothes, and I had to be at the theater at 5 a.m. to get back in the costume. So I got maybe an hour or two of sleep. Drove through a rainstorm to get to this theater to be backdrop for this interview with Ray Park. So I'm dead tired. I've been up all night, got an hour of sleep. So I'm sitting behind Ray Park in my armor and I'm rocking back. I just see me on the news. I'm like this because my legs were so sore, my feet were sore, so I'm just rocking back and forth. But it was cool. And then afterwards, he did a lightsaber demo for us, and then I gave him one of my trading cards, and he signed one. He signed a trading card that I had of his. So it was really, really cool.
Yeah, Ray Park. The same weekend I met Ray Park, Daniel Logan was also there, and I don't know if you've met him. He's a very nice guy too.
He is. I ran into him at one of the celebrations. Most of my meetings with these people are just very random, except for Ian McDermott, who was coming out of the bathroom, and I had to go in, and they were like making everybody wait, and I'm like, okay, oh, the Emperor is going to the bathroom, and
That's the Emperor's throne.
Yeah.
Dale,
but you were,
he was coming from the Emperor's throne.
yes, he was.
Yeah.
But you were saying, Zoe.
Yeah, well, when Danny Logan, I have a picture of him hugging me, and I'm wearing like an inflatable BB-8 costume. He's great. But when I first met him, we were talking to him for a little while, and he's like, "Oh, so where are you guys from?" And I'm from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which, if you know, is Amish country. So we were talking to him, and we're like, "Oh, we're from Lancaster," and he goes, "Lancaster? I love Amish Mafia." And I was like, okay. I didn't know what to say. I never met someone excited to meet someone from Lancaster. So I was like, yeah, Amish Mafia.
Well, at the celebration in Anaheim, I think it was Celebration 7 in Anaheim, I had paid money to have my picture taken with Mark Hamill and Ian McDermott, you know. So I paid like almost $200 for that picture, and that took all my budget money for that convention just about.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, I tried to keep it quiet for my wife, and then she saw they had the prices posted, and she goes, "You paid that much for a picture?" But we get in there, and I thought, I was hoping they would let us, all three of us, in, and they did. Josh and my wife and I in there, and Josh, I remember we're walking up, and Josh is handing Mark Hamill this Yoda backpack, and he's like, "Can you put this on your back?" And Mark's like, "Yes, just get behind us. Get behind me. Get behind me." I'm thinking, oh no, Josh is going to get us kicked out of this picture for $200. And then I forgot that I wanted to take my glasses off because they were dirty and stuff, and I just wanted to so I was all nervous about it. And I've got my hand on Mark Hamill's back and on Ian McDermott's back, and I'm just like, I'm like standing between the dark side and the light side of the force. And I just smiling ear to ear, and then we got the picture, and it was just, I love that picture.
It's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
I cherish that picture.
well, as I was walking away though, Josh leans over and starts talking to Mark, and I turn around and Mark looks at me, and I go, "Nice to meet you." I was like,
Well,
you're trying to talk to Luke Skywalker.
well, I mean, it's better than just screaming,
I had met Mark at Comic-Con and gotten to spend some time with him actually after the kidney transplant. It was really important. I wanted to tell all the stars about our story and how what they worked on so many years ago, over 40 years ago, wound up saving my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to tell Mark. I was able to actually have a sit down with Mark. They were doing those photo opportunities with autographs that Rebel Scum does. I don't remember what's the name of that thing. Famous Pics or something.
Yeah,
And
or official pics or whatever they are
official
these days.
pics.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Yeah, official pics. And they, I think Philip Wise himself that runs Rebel Scum was there and ushered me up to the front of the line to tell Mark my story. And the people up there weren't having any difficulty with it at all because they were overhearing what I was telling him. And Mark was interested in talking to me. So I'd hoped that when they brought me and Barry back there for that picture, actually, that Mark might think that it was such a unique story that it would ring a bell, and I could just introduce Barry that way because I'd met him and spent some time with him. But it was really rushed, and it was like Barry said. He was like, "Yeah, hurry, get behind me. We'll take the picture and move out and that sort of thing." But he was really cool in the sense that actually with the Yoda backpack, which I actually carry to basically all the conventions, my snacks and my water bottles are in there. He was intuitive. He knew that I wanted him to put the Yoda backpack on for our picture, and he did, and that was really cool. But I had no chance to talk to Ian McDermott, who I think is a really great actor. I love his scene at the opera in Revenge of the Sith when he explains the legend of Darth Plagueis to Anakin. That was a great scene.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I really wanted to get a chance to talk to him or thank him too, but it was so fast. And
Yeah.
in some sense, yeah, I might slightly agree with your wife that your money went up in smoke really fast, Barry.
The
Hey,
only
you know what?
oh,
I've,
go ahead.
I've got a picture, and I got to touch Luke Skywalker, and I got to touch the Emperor. That's all.
Yeah. See, and my one and only autograph and photograph experience was with Carrie Fisher, and the photograph I actually got to spend a bit of time with her because she was fussing with her outfit, and and she just, well, Carrie Fisher, she just told the cameraman to stop it basically and just do what she needed to do. So I got to spend a little more time with her than the 30-second in and out of that box, and it was perfectly filthy. I love it. It was exactly the Carrie Fisher that I wanted.
Yeah, I tend to do autographs over photo ops because I feel like in my experience you get to talk to them more when they do an
Mhm.
autograph. I feel like you said, you get rushed through a photo op, but the one I think the one like photo op I did do was I didn't do it myself. I got invited to go along with a friend who got Taylor Gray's photo op at Celebration Chicago. And
Nice.
we only got to talk to him like a little bit because they really rushed us through. But he was so nice. He was great. I'm trying to think who else. David Prowse was at Steel City. Billy D. Williams was there, and I had to miss because I had work, so I couldn't go that time, and I was so upset because I love Lando.
Who
I was in the
doesn't?
same. I didn't get to talk to Ian McDermott, but I was in the same room as him, which I feel like is enough. I was in the same room as Palpatine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
funny
there's
because
Josh's face. Hi.
Well, yeah, I
Hey.
got here, and I think there we go. My speeder bikes are behind me.
Nice.
yeah, so
Yeah, it got dark outside, so I came in from the California sunshine.
Yeah, it's been dark out here for quite a while.
Hours.
Yeah.
So where were we?
Celebrity.
I think we're
I'm
talking
just trying
about
to remember.
like Star Wars celebrities we met and stuff like that.
I did. This wasn't Star Wars, but I did have a chance encounter with Gary Busey. I was
Okay.
walking. This was also at Steel City. Most of my encounters are at Steel City because I guess celebrities don't come to Pennsylvania that often. But I was walking back from the convention center to the hotel. I think I was just going to take my costume off, or we were going for lunch or something. And Gary Busey was sitting just on the sidewalk. He was sitting in like a little plastic folding chair with like the biggest cigar I've ever seen in his hand, just sitting there. And my sister and I, we were in our Sabine and Ketsu costumes, and he points at us. He goes, "Are you a Star Wars?" And I was like, "I guess."
Are you a Star Wars?
Gary Busey was in Predator 2.
Yeah, well, he called us over and he asked us a little bit about the costumes, and then he offered life advice. And then as soon as we walked away, my dad was like, "Whatever he told you, do the opposite."
Do you remember what his life
Perfect.
advice was?
It was. So I'm gonna shorten it because it took him like probably a minute to get it out. But his advice was, I don't think it was terrible advice, but his advice was, if you marry someone, make sure they do whatever you want, was basically what he said. So maybe not the worst, but
And maybe not the best.
no. But I mean, it's Gary Busey.
Yes.
I did later, I think a couple months later at Steel City again, I met the Fonz, Henry Winkler.
Okay.
And he gave me much better life advice about persevering through trying to get into the film industry. And talk
He's
about
a
how his
sweet
daughter-
man.
He's so nice.
He's such a sweet man.
And
Yeah,
I introduced myself and he's like, "Oh, my daughter's name's Zoe." And
I met him here
Yeah.
in Cleveland at one of our cons as well, and he is just so sweet.
yeah.
And I didn't even pay to meet him. It's just like,
We
again,
didn't
just
either.
walking around, and it's like he just came up, and I'm just like, "Hi," and he just starts talking to you.
Yeah, that was the same thing. He came out, he was at his table, and he was this same time he was there. He's been to Steel City a few times, but that time Bonnie Wright, who plays Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter movies, was also, and I got her autograph, but she wasn't very talkative, but she was there, so most of the line was for her because like I think she's like she was the biggest like modern, I guess, character
Okay.
there. So he didn't really have a line. He came out of his table and was just like talking to us for a while.
He's so nice. I know I've said that already, but he is such a nice guy.
Yeah,
Zoe, it
really.
reminds me, the Happy Days connection runs deep with Star Wars because Ron Howard directed Solo,
Mhm.
and his daughter Bryce Dallas Howard has been directing Mandalorian.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know Happy Days very well, but when my dad was
Oh,
I mean, he was very nice, but my dad was very, very excited about the Fonz, and I didn't really
Well,
know him as much. But
people of a certain age, are going to gravitate towards
oh
that.
yeah, I loved Happy Days when it was on. I always thought Fonz was kind of cool. He looks kind of like bad, he's got that leather jacket, and he had the hair kind of slicked back, and he always hit,
He was very
go,
1950s look. I don't know when that show aired or when that show was on or if I was watching reruns. I am the second youngest. I'm not as young as Zoe, but I'm a little bit younger than Barry and Dale. I'm not sure what. Do you guys know when Happy Days?
74.
Oh, I must have been seeing reruns then.
Yeah, it was 70. I
you
think the
think?
original run was like from 74 to like 82 or 81 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, the first season was very authentic in the clothing and the haircuts and everything. And then they just kind of threw all that out the window in the second season. And it just sort of became, well, you know what? We can slick your hair back and make it kind of look like that era. It doesn't matter. We know your hair's really long. It's the 70s.
What was
That'd
your
be,
first Star
yeah,
Wars movie you saw in the theater, Zoe?
The first one I saw, and I'd already seen it, but it was when they re-released. They were going to re-release all the movies in theaters, but then they did Phantom Menace and then didn't continue. So I saw Phantom Menace in theaters.
Oh, the 3D ones.
Yes, and
Okay.
then I think, I mean, obviously I've seen Force Awakens and all the new ones come out. We did just the theaters around here. Some of them are letting you can get like 10 people together and sit spaced out and rent the whole theater out for like $150, and you get like
yeah.
snacks and stuff. So we went to a theater and watched A New Hope, the Blu-ray
Oh,
special edition.
that's
So I got to see A New Hope in theaters, and I cried a lot.
Aw.
A New Hope. A New Hope is like my favorite movie. I know a lot of people like Empire Strikes Back. I love A New Hope is where I fell in love with Star Wars,
Mhm.
and I fell in love with these characters. And Luke was just this young farm boy, and he wasn't a Jedi yet, and he's just it was awesome. And then of course Rogue One comes out, so now it's like right up there with Star Wars for me, because I thought because it just kind of connects the two movies
Mhm.
together. And oh, I just love, I don't know, I just love it. I love them all, but I like kids. Like, you got your favorites, and you
Yeah.
get the ones that are kind of bad, but you still love
Yeah.
them anyway.
Yeah, I love A New Hope. Although, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the first movie I saw in theaters might have actually been the Clone Wars animated movie, because that was in
Oh.
theaters.
Nice.
So I think
I
that might
saw
have
that in
actually
the
been the
theater.
first one.
I loved seeing that in the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that was the first movie I saw multiple times in theaters, because we went multiple times. But the funny part was my sister was afraid, the scene in that movie where Ventress is like mind controlling like Rex.
Uh-huh.
My little sister was terrified of Ventress because I think she was
Oh.
4 or 5. So every time she conveniently had to take a bathroom break before that scene came along. So
Aw.
my dad had to miss that scene until I think like the third or fourth time we saw it, and my mom came along. So she had to take her to the bathroom, and he got to see it.
So my theater experiences are twofold. I talked about it in our Star Wars stories. When I saw A New Hope, which was in the re-release, but they put out before Empire,
Mhm.
it was re-released in 1979 into movie theaters again. And then Empire came out. But in Empire, I was traumatized when Han Solo had become my favorite character. And when he got frozen and the movie ended, I refused to leave the theater until they unfroze him.
Oh.
And
So
I
Zoe,
grabbed
one of the
onto
questions I want to ask you is, being as you're younger, and see, when I was watching the Star Wars movie, and you got to the Empire Strikes Back, and Vader drops that bombshell on Luke, he's like, no, I am your father, and then I was like, oh, did he just mess with Luke's mind, or is he actually his father, And you had to wait like 3 years till the Return of the Jedi came out to find out and have Yoda confirm, yes, he is your father. I was like, oh.
Mind
And then I
blown.
think with the new generation, they are probably already know that in advance that because you see, if you go to see the first movies, Anakin turns to Darth Vader and he has the two, Luke and Leia at the end of episode 3. So you kind of it's I don't know.
So did you have that experience? Did your dad
I
give you
don't.
that
I don't remember. I mean, I just logically I had to have watched 4, 5, and 6 first because Phantom Menace only came out 2 years before I was born, and then But I don't remember watching them for the first time. Which I mean,
Okay.
it's kind of cool because then I was like really raised on Star Wars like my whole life. Like it's just
Yeah.
always been like Star Wars. But I do kind of like, man, I wonder like what I would have thought. Like now if you could like erase my mind and like watch it, like how I would react.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it's cool, but no, I don't really remember watching even the prequels. I think Revenge of the Sith came out when I would have been like 4 or 5. I don't really remember seeing that for the first time. I remember seeing Clone Wars the first time, but that's
Because that would have been 2008.
yeah, I remember Clone Wars, but I don't remember the others.
Speaking of Clone Wars, Bo-Katan's entrance onto the Mandalorian is just one of my favorite things. Because I knew her since the Clone Wars. It paved the way for a character like Sabine.
Yes.
And her sister, Duchess Satine, is one of my favorite ladies in all of Star Wars, being that she was the one that melted Obi-Wan Kenobi's heart. And I am a big fan of, I guess it's the Kryns family. I think that's how you pronounce it. Kryze? Okay.
Kryze.
The Kryze family, yeah. And I think that that's incredible. And I was just talking to somebody on boards earlier about why Satine is fascinating to me, is because she was a Mandalorian and a pacifist. And to have that character that really stands out, something about her that really stands out strong, is amazing. And she lectures Obi-Wan Kenobi about being a general in the Clone Wars. And what's going to happen with Order 66. I thought that was incredible, poignant writing. And Dave Filoni has been a master. I totally have admired his work with the Clone Wars and the writing he's gotten done and the presentation of it all. But Bo-Katan being realized by the same actress that voiced her, Katie Sackhoff, has been incredibly fun. And watching her interview earlier this week, was really joyful.
Yes, I was really excited to see Bo. That wasn't this past week's episode. It was last week's. We're not spoiling anything for Dale and Barry, right?
No,
Okay, I just wanted to. You weren't saying anything, so I was like, oh no. Yeah, I loved her entrance. It was cool. These are little things I noticed as like a costume person, but she's wearing her Rebels / Clone Wars season 7 paint job on her helmet because it changes, but she's wearing her old Clone Wars headband instead of her Rebels headband. So that's something I noticed.
That's kind of interesting to be able to put all that together. And it's like somebody's probably like, what's the backstory on that?
Know. Well, because she did wear that paint job and paired with that headband in Clone Wars season 7, and then she switches to a new headband in Rebels. So it's just interesting. I don't know. It's something I noticed. I thought it was cool.
You're a customer. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I never would have picked that up.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid and I was starting to, once you hit like 5 foot, then you start getting aren't you a little tall for a Jawa comments, and you gotta find something else. And so it was right before Rebels came out, and I was kind of looking at Bo-Katan because I troop with a really cool Bo-Katan around here, and obviously she's really amazing in Clone Wars, and then Sabine came out and stole my heart. But so I definitely look at Bo-Katan a lot. My dad is I think that it failed a little bit, but he's attempting to 3D print her helmet
Okay.
from Mandalorian. So
I think the funny Mandalorian costume for that's going around. I don't know who's seen it. Is the guy standing like just off camera?
that poor production assistant.
I know, and I'm just like laughing at people. Are like, is this the right color for this shirt? Is this looks like the watch that he's wearing, but it's definitely blue jeans. And should I put a piece of the wall in front of me so you can't see that?
Okay,
Yeah.
so today on the boards, there's a guy that made a custom carded action figure of the guy behind the wall, and it is great. But I did something myself. So he's wearing a watch. Now, Princess Leia on Endor wears a wrist communicator watch type of thing, you know. She has the iWatch or iBand or whatever, you know, and she got hers in 1983. So the thing about it was that she's got a green top, that camo poncho, and she's got sort of blue pants. It has like a yellow general stripe on it in Leia's costume, but from the front view, you don't see it. And this was a male PA, probably. It seemed like it. So I reasoned that, okay, they can write a backstory that some faction of the New Republic or the Rebel Alliance or Resistance was trying to get into that base at the same time that they didn't know that Cara Dune, because she's still, well, she's an ex-rebel, but she's still a rebel, that Cara Dune was infiltrating it with the Mandalorian, etc. And so I thought, yeah, you know, you could write a whole story out of that and fix that without having to do it. And then this character got out of there, but can identify Din Djarin and Grief Karga and Cara Dune. And because he managed to escape before they blew the place up. So that's the reasoning. And now that PA guy is going to be famous, and they're going to have to cast him in the show.
Yeah.
Probably. It's like now it's official.
Yeah, that's one of those things, because I've done shoots for films and stuff, and it's we don't have nearly as big sets and stuff as Mandalorian does, but it's always like really tense because like, was I in that shot somehow, or like was my shadow in the shot? And so I can't imagine how that PA, even if no one else knows who he is, he knows who he is, so he's probably watching like, oh no.
Yeah, there's Hayden Christensen's Coke bottle at the famous Kiss on Naboo.
Oh,
Do you guys remember that?
I don't remember that. I'll have to look for
I remember
it.
something about it, but I want to go back and watch that episode though to see if I see that guy, or if they somehow they digitally edit him out.
I had a hard time seeing him because there was so much blaster fire, and then it was until like the screen cap that people kept like showing. I was like, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah, I didn't see him at all until it was pointed out to me, and I was like, oh no. It's just one of those,
I saw it online. I've only watched the episode once, and it's time, because I usually watch the episodes more than once, but I watched the episode with Bo-Katan 3 times, so I think I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, poor PA. We've gone way off where we originally were, but I do have one more question about our Star Wars Stories experience, if we want to kind of hop back to that.
Okay, so last question.
One.
Yeah.
All right, so I just want to know what everyone's like. Obviously we're all pretty much sworn to secrecy about it, so I want to know what everyone's like, friends and family, like what their reactions were when it came out.
My friends and family were just like over the moon, and as we were talking about how COVID happened and we were getting my mother moved from her condo to this apartment. It's an assisted living apartment, so she went in right as COVID was coming around, and so she doesn't do well with technology, being like 88 years old. So it was not until about 2 months ago that she saw the episode that, she heard me talk about. And so we'd had her, because we could take her out for a little little bit as long as it was outdoors. And so we got her dinner and I said, okay, well, before you go, I'm going to set this up so you can see this. And she just cried. She just cried. And I'm like, and she's like, I'm so proud of you. You spoke so well and you told your story so well. And I just, it's your mom, what do you, it melted my heart. And I was so glad that she finally got to see it.
Well, my boss at work told me he was going to, once it came out, he was going to have it on, broadcast on the TV, and nothing like that happened, and they actually ended up changing some of our positions, our job positions, and so now I don't work with the same group of people as I did before. We're all working different shifts now, and so I've had to show a few of them at work, but we're supposed to be working. I can't sit there and hold the phone.
Yeah.
Watch this. It's important.
The first half is this guy that I donated the kidney to, and the second half is me and him together. But yeah, but the people that I've shown have left positive feedback on Facebook about it. So I mean that's and my dad, all my family lives farther away. My brother gave me positive feedback, so he's proud of me for what I did. So Josh, what about you?
I have friends and family.
Oh.
I don't know. I've never been to your home.
You got a few family.
You got friends. We're right here.
Thank you.
Star Wars family.
Yeah, I didn't see a big reaction for much of it. I'm probably the only one here that watched it with the mountain lion, but Pumpkin said meow.
I know my wife wanted me to watch it with me initially the first time I watched it, but I was so excited. I got the text at work that it was going live at like 3:00, and I had to wait till 4:00 till I got off the clock, and then I went and sat in this room and watched it. I was like, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't come across as being like saying something stupid, like when we did this news interview after the transplant. It's like this guy from the news calls me up, like I had just gotten back to my hotel room out of the hospital. He calls me up. He says, "This is so and so from this so and so news. I'd like to come over and interview you at the hotel you're at." And I don't know how he found out about it, but he came over and he's interviewing me. And then they used this quote that I said about being afraid to wear my Star Wars stuff at school because I was afraid of being beat up.
Oh.
And I, I'm on all the pain medication, and I'm was bloated from the surgery and stuff. So I'm thinking, of all the stuff I said, you had to use that comment.
So just perpetuating that whole thing that we were all picked on because we liked Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I guess I was lucky. I didn't have that experience. Growing up as a kid, everybody thought Star Wars was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, it was when I was growing up, it was cool, but not for girls. That was when I was really little. And then Force Awakens came out when I was like just starting high school, and then everyone wanted to talk to me about Star Wars all of a sudden, which was a blessing and a curse. But I think what was my question? The reaction. Well, when my video was posted, I was in one of my last online classes for that semester. And I was sitting there like on my computer, and my phone I got a text from Jordan, and I didn't look at it because I just heard my phone buzz and like I'm in class. I had to flip it over. And then my phone starts buzzing like over and over and over again. So I check, and the one text, it was from Jordan. He's like, "Oh, we just posted your episode. Go check it out." So I watched it in class. Don't tell anyone. But but my phone, like my Facebook and Instagram messages, and I've since turned notifications off for those apps, but I didn't have them off then. So they were like going off. I was getting like texts from people. And then at the end of class, since it was like our last class, it was my TA. They were like, "Oh, does anyone have anything to share before we sign off for the semester?" And I was like, "I have something to share." So I sent it to my class, and everyone watched it.
Oh, see, they ask right on time.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Zoe. Yeah, his timing actually was always bad for me because I'm getting some message or some information from Jordan or something when I have like the apex predator of the animal kingdom right behind me. And so actually I recorded a thank you message. I couldn't watch all of it at the time, but Jordan had texted me or something that it was on air. So I texted a message back with him. I was sitting with Pumpkin, and actually he just comes up and chills right next to, we have at least one fence between us, two for most visitors and everything. And so I'm there, and I'm recording a quick message to Jordan and told him that I'd take a look at it when I was finished with all my chores at the ranch. And then I said I wanted to thank him, and Pumpkin thanks him too. And I like looked over my shoulder and I said, "Do you want to say anything?" And Pumpkin had been sitting there purring and everything with Hank, chilling with me. And then he got up and walked away.
He wanted to be featured. That's all. He was mad he didn't get featured.
Yeah, he's a showboat cat. And yeah, I was gonna say, it's just Pumpkin. It's not all about you. Not always.
That's funny. Yeah, no, for me, I think I can say this now safely, but I wasn't the best at keeping it a secret. Like, I didn't post about it or anything, but like Lizzy knew. I think the weekend before we recorded it, I hung out with Shona Marie Macias, who does she runs the Geeky Bubble website, and she does some podcasts with her mom. And I was like, I'm not going to tell Jonah. And then we got together, and I was just so excited. I was like, okay, I have to tell you something. Because we were filming it on that month, like a day or two after. I was just too excited. But like I kept it generally a secret. So like I had some people who knew. But most people were surprised. I know all my aunts and uncles, my mom sent it to like the group chat of like my aunts and cousins and stuff. And so like I know my aunt was telling me like whatever the next meetup we had, I think we had like a socially distanced gathering for something. I think it was a birthday. But she was like, yeah, I showed it to everyone at work. I showed it to like all of the other people, and I was like, look at what my niece did. And like my cousins were like, yeah, I sent it around. So it was, yeah.
Well, like I was saying, ours was supposed to be originally filmed in January or February, and then it got pushed back to March, and then didn't get filmed till like a couple months ago. And so I had a hard time because Jordan's like, I'm like, can I post it on the Facebook board? So I'm gonna be on this. He's like, no, you can't say anything until so I'm like sitting here with this thing. I'm like, I told my wife, and I told a few close friends, but I was like, and then everyone's like, the ones I did tell, like, so when is this show you're supposed to be done? I said, I don't know if it's even going to happen now because of the pandemic and stuff. And then and then I took some pictures, and I had to keep those. I took some pictures of when we were the way the cameras were set up and in the room and stuff. So because I wanted to document that.
Yeah, we had to hold off on taking pictures. What's funny is when they were there, Jordan, and if you look on his, I think like his Instagram, if you scroll back to March when they filmed mine, there's a picture of him before he's supposed to tell anyone, a picture of him in my house. And like, you can't really tell it's my house unless it's been in our house. It's just a wall.
He did the same thing with mine. I think his was like back on the road again or something like that. And, and it was a black and white picture of my house. And I was just like,
well, and right after they filmed it, some of the crew and producers they went to Philadelphia and spent the night and then flew out the next morning. And I was on Twitter that night after we filmed it, and Matt Martin was like, I just tried a Philly cheesesteak for the first time. And I was like, I told you to try a Philly cheesesteak. But I couldn't say anything. I couldn't reply and be like, because it was a secret.
Right.
But
it was fun though. It was definitely fun, and I'm glad that we all got to enjoy that experience.
Yeah.
I just had a thought, but it kind of slipped through my old man memory. Oh, there's Josh and a tiger.
I see the tiger. That's a beautiful
That's Nola.
animal.
Since I was talking about her, I definitely wanted to let her say hello. She's not she's not with me
Yeah.
at home.
She's
hope not.
beautiful though.
Thank you. She's my best girl. She's the easiest one to introduce to folks.
Aw.
Aw.
Wait, is she actually next to you like that, or is that?
No, that was photoshopped. We're not allowed contact with the animals. And that being said, I was very lucky enough to have contact with Melanie, Pumpkin's girlfriend. She's another mountain lion that passed away on Halloween. She was my girl.
Oh.
She was the one I was closest to. I was allowed to have contact with her. And to be able to hold one of these animals and pet her and comfort her and everything, and it's so cool. Her paw is as big as a human hand. And Nola, who I'm pictured there with the tiger, he is like 3 times the size of a mountain lion. So it's insane. Everybody's quiet.
Yeah, I don't know. We ran out of like questions, so I'm not sure. I think we definitely covered the Star Wars story experience a lot. They have more episodes coming out. I think the schedule's right. They should have one coming out on Tuesday, I think, this week.
Mhm.
So make sure, you check
Tune
that
in.
out when that comes out.
Yeah, I did actually contact a few of the people, like Jordan. Not Jordan, or no, is it Jordan? The gentleman who was in the first, was it post-pandemic? He dresses as Finn.
Oh, he's in our little group chat thing here,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
I
a
thought
I
he was-
Marine.
remember. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. That's gonna bother me now. I need to check.
I remember that he is a Marine, and
Yeah.
he excelled at his career in military, and I admired him for that.
Like
It's
Brandon.
Brandon, yes.
Brandon.
That's right.
The guy who
Brandon.
plays as Finn.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I contacted him through Facebook Messenger because I had a question. I wanted to know, because watched his episode, and so I wanted to know how his experience was. And because our episode, we were still waiting for it to be released, and then the next episode came out, and then the next episode, and then finally our episode came out, and then our episode was actually supposed to come out on Election Day, November 3rd. So I'm sitting there waiting for a message from Jordan on Election Day, and I'm not hearing anything. I'm going, oh, what's going on with this? And then so finally I texted Jordan. I said, is it coming out today? And he goes, oh no, they decided to postpone it till. No, I remember I had posted on Facebook a picture of kind of like one of the cameras that was in my house from that, and I kind of like, oh, it should come out today. And he goes, yeah, just a few hours. And then that never came out. So I finally texted him. He says, oh, they've decided to postpone it till next week because of the election. They wanted to make sure that,
Doesn't get
Joe
like
Biden
buried.
should steal your show. Joe
So,
Biden
yeah,
and Kamala Harris. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I'm glad it finally came out. And, 'cause the next week was I wasn't sleeping well that whole week. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he really told us too far in advance because I think, the pandemic had just happened that kind of threw everything off.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a surprise. And also, I was really like focused on online school, so it was a little bit in the back of my mind too. So it was like a nice kind of surprise on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think
I'm still hoping to
Yeah.
show it. I sent the text to my boss. I sent a text message to one of my assistant managers. I'm not sure. I don't know if she ever watched it or not.
Yeah. So
Your voice sounded different, Barry. Your
What?
microphone. I don't know if we're all sounding different though or not.
Josh doesn't sound different. Barry did sound a little different. I don't know if that was
phasing issue?
Yeah.
Or-
I'm not sure. I think it's been over an hour, so I think we thoroughly
Yes.
covered our Star Wars stories and some other stuff too. We could, that's commonplace on this podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again with some more of our Star Wars stories friends. A lot of people were just with work and life, things get in the way. So
Mhm.
hopefully we'll be able to have more people on in the future.
I hope so.
Talk
I'm
about their
looking forward
experiences.
to meeting them all at some
Yes.
point.
Yeah,
This was
we
a
have.
great episode because actually I think that it's fun because you got to meet Barry and Dale. Well, you already knew them, but with all of us together, we all knew each other and have been friends for so long that I think it combined for a little. I mean, it was definitely of interest to me, and I'll watch the old episode, to see my friends again because, we're all going through change and, Barry
But
and
we're all still
Dale.
here.
Well,
We're all still here for each other, and we're still alive 20 years later.
and I hope it will continue that way. That we'll all be in great health. But you and Barry, you guys are going to get older, and I'm going to become cat food.
Oh.
Well, okay, if you insist.
Hey, Dale, Josh, and I have all been friends since before you were born, Joey.
Yeah.
Well, Zoe, thank you so much for hosting another fun episode.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. We'll definitely want to do it again. Hopefully with even more friends. But
Yes.
if not, that's okay too. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad now we do have like an Our Star Wars Stories group chat now on Facebook, which is so much fun.
I like
I
it.
was telling Jordan about that on Saturday, and he's like, "Oh, I love that." Jordan's very excited about everything. So yeah, hopefully we'll do this again. I think we should wrap up. I know it's a little earlier for you, Josh, but out here it's 8 p.m. So
Yeah.
That's okay. I've got some more work in my editing nightmare to make all those changes before my new book release, and then I try to go to bed early because I get up early because my animals want their lunch, and I have to butcher and prepare, and we put vitamins and fish oil and everything for their health and their joints together, and take care of all the animals. Plus, there's horses, livestock, and mucking the stalls, picking up the pies. I guess I'll make it polite, and that kind of work to be done too. So I definitely get my time in when I can do the writing, but editing is the hardest part. And then I'm actually going to turn these into screenplays. So, hopefully I'll have like a cool theme song that the Mandalorian got.
yeah.
That music goes through your head, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's I have it as an alarm tone because me and my dad wake up at 5 a.m. every morning on Fridays. So I wake up on Fridays to the Mandalorian
Nice.
theme.
If I can just say one more thing before we all leave here. There's if you go and watch our episode, there's a scene where I ignite a lightsaber, and then there's a scene where I'm taking a selfie shot from and so you got this view of the back of my head, and there's a camera up here, and I was doing that while they were doing some stuff with Josh, and I didn't think they were putting that all on film. And so here I'm just making this goofy face, and I'm igniting the lightsaber, and while I'm listening to Josh be talked to on the
That's
thing.
funny.
So, yeah, I'm like, oh great. Yeah.
Yeah. Although sometimes we get the best stuff when we don't know we're being filmed, So
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys go. We'll wrap up. Thank you again
All right.
so
Sounds
much
good.
for doing
Thank you.
this. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Zoe, and thanks to your dad, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you to Mike too, and Zoe. It was really wonderful meeting you.
It was wonderful meeting all of you. I mean, Dale, I already met you, but it was wonderful meeting Josh and Barry. Hopefully we'll be able to meet more in person at Celebration Anaheim in 2 years. I guess less than 2 years. Hopefully that'll go through.
They announced another celebration?
Yes.
The postponement.
Yeah.
Oh, the one that they had going, right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll work out well enough.
I forgot about everything. This is a unique year,
Yes.
2020.
Yeah.
Everything that was supposed to have happened did not. And yeah, I actually had forgotten that there was a Star Wars
Yeah.
celebration this year
Yeah.
because, in effect, there wasn't.
Yes. Yeah. Celebration. Oh, this I wouldn't just because of my school starting schedule. I wouldn't have been able to make this year's celebration in
Mhm.
Anaheim, but because they pushed it back in August, I am able to make it in 2022, which is good. I mean, I wish this wouldn't have happened, but that's a little nice side effect, I guess, for me,
Are they going?
not for
Are they going to
everybody.
resell tickets? Because I found out about it when Barry and I were in Chicago, and we were staying. I had gotten him Cubs games tickets, and we stayed to go to all those ball games. And I just the amount of money to extend the hotel and to go to the games and everything. I didn't have the position to go in to celebration, whatever number it will be for Anaheim 2020, and it sold through before I was able to do anything. And so I was not scheduled to go to it, but the things have changed. Are they going to resell tickets?
I don't know about buying tickets. I don't know. I know just recently people who already bought tickets, that had the option to like transfer, were able to um were like able to like transfer that ticket, and that just like went through I think recently, but I'm not sure how it'll work for people who didn't have tickets originally. I'm not sure if they've opened that up yet or anything.
I've got to get you out here, Barry, and it would be great if we could all join up together and then go over to Disneyland and crew on the Millennium Falcon.
There
Now,
you
see,
go.
that's what I would do. I would go to Disneyland for that, to go on the Millennium Falcon. I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
But you
I,
figure
I, I
Anaheim,
got I got to fly the Falcon because I stayed with my last fall break last year. I was able to stay with Lizzie and her family, and we flew the Falcon and went to Galaxy's Edge, and it was incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I've been the pilot and I've been the repair guy. I've never been a gunner yet. But where
I
did you go,
was
Zoe? In Disneyland?
in Anaheim. We were planning this year to go to Orlando and do it like as a family, but that obviously didn't go through. So, hopefully we'll be able to go to Orlando because that's a little closer to us. But yeah, I went to Anaheim. I was a pilot. We didn't do that great. I think it was probably my fault. But we only did it once because we were only there one day.
I was a co-pilot. I went with my friend Crystal, and she insisted on having Han Solo's seat. And so I was taller anyway, so I took Chewbacca's.
Yeah, I think Honda was kind of mean to me in the line though, because I had the app and you like do little mini games through the line for the Falcon to like keep you entertained. And he kept asking like there's like this one part and you get a fake like ID and you have to like answer questions off the ID. And I got all of them right and he still said I could have done better. So I have a little beef with Hondo for that.
Oh, true Disneyland story. When I was there with Crystal, I wore a shirt because I've heard of stories of people finding their kidney donor at Disneyland. So I wore a shirt for Stephen Smiley that he needs a transplant and the hospital number. And I figured that we're in line talking to people you'll be in line with for 45 minutes. You'll be able to at least share a little bit. And I had a Star Wars story to share, obviously. So I'm in there in Galaxy's Edge, and I'm wearing the shirt, and I have the black vest and everything on, which I put on for pictures. So I kind of have a Han getup. And we go in to take photo ops because Crystal found out about this place where Chewbacca and Boba Fett and other stars were taking costume pictures, And so it was great because I got to hug a Wookiee, and we saw Chewie and met Chewie first. And then we go over to the next room, and Boba Fett was really mean to me because he took a look at me and he says, "You look like Corellian rebel scum." And he's like, and Crystal's like, "Yeah, he is." And he's like, "Get on your knees." And he's pointing your blaster at me. He's got like binders, handcuffs or something. And so she's snapping pictures and stuff like that. And I said, "Nobody's seen you without that helmet on, right?" And he's like, "No, it was before Mandalorian," because I could have heard him say, "This is the way." But I said, "Well, I'm personal friends with Chewbacca, and he's right over in that next room. And you mess with me anymore, I'm just going to call Chewie in here, and that helmet's going to go flying." He was quiet. The actor didn't have anything to say to that.
A dangerous game to play with Boba Fett. Yeah, no, the Star Wars actors at Galaxy's Edge are very committed. I was with Lizzy and Axel Perales, and we hung out for a while with Vi Marathi. She came up with code names for us. She had her sneak her around the park from like stormtroopers. Like we hid in bushes with Vi Marathi, who's like a resistance spy character. If you haven't read the books, it's where she's from.
Wow.
And she hung out with us. We came up with a code name for our team, which is Blue Lothcat. We had she named me Delta. She just gave us code names, so she just pointed at me and she was like, "You're Delta." And I was like, "Great, thank you, Vi Marathi." And we like snuck around like Kylo Ren and like hid her and like made a wall to like stand and hide her from the stormtroopers. And then later we ran into her again, and she was like, "Blue Lothcat," and she was like, so yeah, the Vi Marathi actress at Galaxy's Edge. Great job.
I loved all the books. I'm old school and had really wanted to see Jaina and Jason Solo from New Jedi Order. And I read the Young Jedi Knight books about them before that when I was growing up as a kid. And I like the sequel trilogy. I don't want to get into that a lot, but I would have loved if Adam and Daisy had played Jason and Jaina. It would have been great too. They were incredible characters, and that was the point. I was really enjoying the books, and it motivated me to write too, because I actually wanted to write for Star Wars originally. Then I don't know if I really had an opportunity to transfer to reading, because I have to reread my own material 500 times before I get so nervous about putting out a new story. I have it professionally edited, but I still check and double check if everything makes sense, because that's what I like for my stories. I like to provide my readers continuity and also no loopholes, and nothing to go back and go, what? The Emperor is still alive?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think I was never into the old EU books as much. I think I was a little young. I read some of the old Clone Wars like comics and stuff, but never much into EU books. So my Star Wars reading has primarily been the new canon, and I am really loving all those books. And that's where Vi Marathi's from. She's in the Phasma book, and I know she's in the I haven't read them yet, but she's in like the Galaxy's Edge books, like Black Spire and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But so I'd recommend Phasma. She's not in that quite as much, obviously, because it's mainly about Captain Phasma, but it's still a good book.
Speaking of the Clone War comics, Ayla Sakura came from Jan Duursema's work when she designed her, and George Lucas liked her, Ayla, that was, and wanted her into the movies before she became a major Clone Wars character, and loved the design of that, a blue Twi'lek Jedi. And Jan actually is done the book cover for my next release that's coming out this fall for Buried Values, and I was able to partner with her. Some of the Star Wars artists have been incredible. I wanted to give a shout out to Dave Dorman, because I forgot about something. When I met you, Barry and Dale, I had known you back in 1999, and I went to the Comic-Con with Sir Steve. He was embarrassed because I built a 5-foot-long replica of Princess Leia's spaceship, the Blockade Runner, the 10 of 4, for all my action figures, and rolled it in on a cart with a boombox blasting the Star Wars tunes underneath it, trying to attract attention. And Comic-Con security was on me, like, right away.
Oh.
And they were like, you can't do that. And Dave Dorman, the famous Star Wars cover artist, said, no, he's with me. And he let me park that Blockade Runner there for 4 days of Comic-Con in his exhibit.
That's nice.
And I had the Hasbro team come over and everything. They were saying it's too big, but I'll have to say that today, it's only a foot shorter than our sail barge.
Yeah, my dad he hasn't opened it, but he has one of the sail barges, the Black Series ones, and that thing's huge. So we said like 20 minutes ago we were gonna wrap up, and then got on another bunny trail, which is common. So But we'll wrap up. Thank you guys so much for
Thank
doing
you.
the show. It was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
hello.
And so I guess we'll just sign off. I know I'll let you guys do your plugs, but obviously you can find Star Wars Geek Girl. It's at SW Geek Girl on Twitter and Instagram, and then just Star Wars Geek Girl on Facebook. Do you guys have any website? Oh, and
Let's wrap this up.
StarWarsGeekGirl.com is our website. I've been doing weekly writings about the mise-en-scène of Star Wars Rebels. If that's something you're interested in, I've been doing that every week. So check that out. And just, the Star Wars Geek Girl website in general has lots of fun stuff, kind of. Lots of writing. Do you guys have anything you want to plug before we go?
Sure. You can find me at cancerbusy.blogspot.com if you would like to follow my musings about having multiple myeloma. It's cancerbusy.blogspot.com.
Barry, Josh, is there anywhere people can find you?
Okay.
I don't know offhand.
No.
I'm
It's
on
okay.
Facebook at Buried Values, and Buried Values is like they're all dead and buried, but it's an interesting look into our history and our possible future. So buriedvalues.com or
Okay.
Buried Values on Facebook.
Again, thank you so much, everyone listening. Make sure you check everything out from everybody, and if you haven't, make sure you watch the Star Wars Stories series, because every episode's really good and really, really touching, I feel like. So hopefully we'll be able to get more our Star Wars Stories friends on the show. But for now, we'll sign off. So again, thank you so much to you guys for being on. Thank you to everyone who listened. May the Force be with you, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
May the Force be with you as well.
Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.